Hi there. Welcome to the Coach Craig Kenneth Show. I'm your host, Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm your co-host, Coach Victoria.
This is our third intro, so I had to nail it this time, and I almost blew it again. This is a caller-driven talk show where we talk about dating, mental health, relationships.
Anything you can think of.
And in today's episode, we have a caller on the line with us that has really struggled with anxiety. But with anxiety, it can impact us in a lot of different areas of our life, not just for ourselves and our relationships, but also in our careers and advancing in our careers.
Right? When you think about it, we spend a lot of time at work. So work can make up a huge chunk of our lives.
So today we have Rachel on the line, who's in her early 30s. Rachel, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Hello.
So you have been following the channel for a long time, right?
Yeah, for a very long time. I've bought your books. I used to listen to you and Margaret. Margaret was amazing to sleep to, as strange as that sounds. And yeah, I still read them to this day. It really helps, and I
The
found the
workbooks.
perfect person, a perfect partner to suit
Yeah.
me as well. So yeah, thank you.
I'm really
You're
glad to be
saying,
here.
yeah, you're saying the workbooks helped you.
Yeah, it really did. I still use them now every now and then to check myself, never mind other people. And I even use them on my family to see where they are, if they're anxious or you know what they are like in their own relationships and where I got it from, especially my father and mother.
Yeah, it's very enlightening when you start to really think about things and different people and you put the pieces of the puzzle together and it all becomes clearer.
Honestly, yes, it's so interesting. I love things like that and working on myself. It's just great. I really do enjoy it. And
That's
yeah,
awesome.
you've helped. Yeah. So thank you.
We're happy to hear that. That's why we do this, you know?
Yeah, I love it. I always listen to you guys. You're
So
very
tell,
wise.
thank you. Um, so tell us about your life. Have you struggled with anxiety a lot of your lifetime?
So funny enough, it started round about, I want to say, when I was 15. Um, I remember exactly what happened when it started. I was actually I was in a religion, and I was reading out a scripture. And I'm not the best at reading to begin with, out loud anyway. And I felt this, my heart was beating really fast, and I forgot to breathe. I couldn't, my voice ends up going all croaky, probably how it's doing now because I'm nervous. But I get these inner thoughts that's quite negative, and I'm like, people are watching you, or you've slipped up there, or it's quite negative, and it makes
Yeah.
it worse. And then I honestly, that my whole stomach clenches, and I remember I couldn't even finish what I was reading. I had to literally get up, go to the loo. I threw up, and I had to like lay down on the cold floor, and I couldn't stop shaking, and I thought I was having a heart attack. It was horrendous. And
Wow.
unfortunately, um even though I do things to help myself, I go to therapy, but it doesn't really get to the root cause of it. But now it's obviously affecting my um work life, and the fact that I do want to progress in my career, um, and I have to do presentations in front of people. And honestly, when you're feeling like that, you can't really. I feel like I'm not professional. It's really difficult, and I get really frustrated with myself. Um, so yeah, it can be really upsetting.
Wow. Isn't it interesting how the trauma from that event being a teenager is so impactful and so powerful that it impacts you, you know, 20 years later, that it's like the speaking in public, that event was so overwhelming for you that here we are like 20 years later, and now it's impacting your life and your field.
Yeah, and it can be one of those things that's almost like this negative feedback loop where you're nervous that first time and now you're hyper aware of everything you're doing and how you're being perceived. And so you're nervous that other people are going to see you as nervous, and that makes you even more nervous. And then it
Yeah.
makes you feel like you're out of control. And so what you're describing, it sounds like a lot of social anxiety. It sounds like a lot of performance specified social anxiety. You know, one of those early experiences where you're made in a classroom to read from a book, or you're in a group presentation and you're presenting for the first time, it can be that pressure. All of those eyes are on you, and that can feel very intense. So we appreciate you sharing something that can be vulnerable. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people watching this that can relate, because it's more common than you would think.
Sure. And I can personally relate to the having, anxiety. I've done
Mhm.
stand-up comedy for over 20 years, and I probably struggled with, stage fright more than most of the comics that go up, right? For some reason, in my unconscious, it's extremely important to perform well. And so I put a lot of additional pressure on myself. Whereas many of the comics go up there and they won't do that well. And they'll say, man, I did so good tonight. I'm sitting there thinking, well, no one was laughing, so that wasn't very good. But, each person perceives it differently and puts a different amount of pressure on themselves, or and that impacts how they perform or how they see it. I mean, you used to go to the open mic all the time.
Mhm.
How many times did you see someone go up there with no social awareness, that they were ranting and rambling and they didn't make any sense and they weren't funny, and then they would be talking about like how they thought they were going to be the next big comic,
Right.
right? So it's like there's no calibration there.
Mhm.
Um,
It sounds like on your end, you're almost hyper aware of how you're being perceived. You know, you're thinking other people might be thinking that I'm not smart enough, or I'm not skilled enough, or I shouldn't be in this position, or I don't deserve this position. A lot of what I'm hearing too is there might be just that underlying thread of, am I a fraud? I an imposter? Am I not capable of doing this? Kind of that self-doubt that creeps in.
sure.
Yeah, because I always wondered why, because I did it so many times before I was 15. I was on the platform. I used to do lots of things in front of people, and it never affected me.
Mhm.
So I've always thought perhaps there was something
Mm.
prior to that event that's suddenly affected me to then um, overthink. Um, I've thought of a few things that it possibly could be, but I don't know what your thoughts are.
I definitely think it's tied to early stuff, right?
Mm.
Um, Even, sometimes it can be stage related. Like I remember I was in like, I don't know, third or fourth grade, and I had to perform in a play. And I remember like a lot of the kids were like looking for their parents out in the audience, which is what you do as a kid.
Mhm.
You should see my daughter. I showed you the video.
You did, yeah.
Looking for me in the crowd, right? But I remember, you can't see, it's traumatizing, but that impacted me when I started doing stand-up, that same
Mm.
kind of feeling.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that there's a correlation with things that happen in our early childhood, trauma, anxiety, and that it comes out later on. And I think you had mentioned that you had some difficult things or traumatic things happen.
Yeah, you said you had some ideas of what it could be.
So growing up, I actually grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and I felt that I was trying to be so perfect. I wasn't being me. I was very aware. I wasn't able to say my truths because I felt other people were going to judge me. Um, so I had to put a whole new personality, something that wasn't me. So I feel like that could have affected, obviously, growing up. And then I have found myself. I'm no longer a Jehovah's Witness. I feel a lot more free to do what I want and say what I want. Um, and the second was that um, when I was younger, I want to say 8 or 9. I honestly can't remember, um, as messed up as that is, but my dad's best friend tried to, um, how do I put this nicely? He tried to get with me.
Mm.
Okay.
He had a farm. He wanted me to look at the lambs, but I did get away and nothing happened. I ran, like I pushed him away and I ran.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
I did try to tell my mother at the straight away, but she was doing something with his partner and she just said, "Not now, go watch TV." So I never actually spoke about it.
Wow.
Oh,
She didn't know. I don't blame her at all. It's a normal situation when a child goes to a mother and says like, "Mummy, mummy, mummy." Um, but yeah, and I only told her for the first time about 2, 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
Um, and I did tell her not to tell my father. Um, I don't know why. I just don't want. I don't trust him as much. I don't want him to
you
say
shouldn't
that
trust
I'm
them at
lying.
all.
Oh, I don't know. It's really, I know. I think it's, even though I accepted what happened and it did affect me, I've done a lot of things to heal. It will always be with me, of course. Um, and it has affected my decisions in relationships, to even be with somebody, um, not sexually, just in general. Um, to take that step was quite difficult. I always overthought. And the third reason, is that my best friend, she always brings up little stories that we've done together from when we were children, because
Mhm.
I've known her since I was young. And I honestly don't remember anything from my childhood. I remember little bits here
Mm.
and there, and I don't know if this is a thing. I've read it a long time ago that it could be a sign of my brain is trying to protect me from something, like maybe something even worse has happened as a child and my brain's like blocked it out. And I
Yes,
don't know if that's actually a thing.
it
I'm not
is.
sure.
That's
Um,
definitely a thing.
well, I'm
Yeah.
worried that that is a possibility because honestly, she mentions things and I don't remember anything.
Yeah, I'm the
I
same
remember
way.
little bits.
I can
Pardon?
tell you that I am the same way with anxiety from my childhood. If my friend says, "Do you remember the time this, and that happened?" I'm like, I don't remember that at all. Or I was catching up with some old friends on social media a while ago, and they would bring up, "Do you remember this or that?" And I was like, I don't remember that at all.
Mm.
So I'm the same way. I mean, obviously I remember certain things, but there is a lot
Yeah,
of my
same.
childhood that I don't remember. But my stepdad and my mom were arguing all the time. It was, I think, a very stressful environment. And so I think that when we grow up in a stressful environment, our brain
Mm.
doesn't want us to think about that stuff. So it kind of makes it fuzzy.
Yeah. And
So it could be something like that because my dad, he drinks a lot and he's very argumentative. And my poor mother, because obviously growing up as Jehovah's Witness, she couldn't, and she is a witness, she couldn't divorce him. So they're still together and he still drinks.
mm,
And I used to see her cry. So do you think something, well, I want to say minor, but it isn't minor, but something like that could actually cause me to forget?
Sure.
well,
Yes. Stress.
yeah, I'll say that, this is not therapy, and I know we're not your
I'm sorry.
therapist, but
Yeah.
what we will say is, a child's brain in terms of memory works very different than an adult's. So, sometimes memory, things that you remember as a kid, are going to be naturally fuzzy. Not everybody has a good memory of their childhood, but when we are flooded with emotions or stress or things that are overwhelming for us, then our brain is not going to prioritize remembering the details and the events. It can also go the complete opposite way for some people too. Some people can remember in vivid detail, horrible things that have happened or traumatic incidents that have happened. So, I think it can be on a case by case, but it sounds like here there's like a parallel from not being able to remember things to that feeling of anxiety in the moment where it kind of feels like your mind goes blank when you might be presenting or in that moment when you have, many eyes on you.
Yeah. I think that the trauma stays in the body.
Mhm.
And so, maybe like the incident where your father's friend was, trying to abuse you, that feeling that you had in that moment of that fear and overwhelm, I
Mhm.
think that kind of stays with us. And so when you're in a stressful situation like, presenting, those feelings come back because your body is like, it's like in the nervous system and it's like it's coming up again.
Yeah, you're going back to that like
Survival.
fight or flight, freeze kind of mode.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's almost like it makes me wonder, like, if you worked on that issue with a therapist
Mhm.
about discussing the abuse or the abuse that the guy tried to do and that trauma of that event, if you dealt with that and worked through that, would it actually help you with the fear of speaking issue?
Right. I think it could all be related because all of this to me is correlated with self-confidence, with that feeling of being disempowered. I think an anecdote to that or something that could be helpful is more of that reframe towards empowerment. It sounds like in those moments when you do have a lot of eyes on you, that fear is I'm being judged rather than thinking about, well, what can I provide? Or thinking I have something useful to share and it's very important to share.
That's no, that's it. That's yeah. That's a lot to take in, isn't it?
Hmm.
Um,
Does
yeah.
that feel like does that feel like it's resonating with you?
No, it does. Yeah, definitely. I tried so hard to work on it, and it's so frustrating that that could still be the cause after all this time
Mm.
that I still haven't healed myself fully. If that is what it is, trying to do the fight or flight, whenever I'm in a little bit of pressure, that my body ends up, I feel like it goes against me. So
Mm.
it's, yeah, I get really frustrated with that because my body is meant to be my friend, not my enemy.
And it can be
Um,
frustrating after those moments. It's common to kind of get that feeling of shame even after you've feel like you may have embarrassed yourself or maybe
mhm.
have been too nervous in speaking. There can be a wave of shame that comes after that of here has been another moment or another presentation that I completely, messed up. So it can be hard to have compassion on yourself through the process as you're slowly shifting your mindset and your perspective on it.
That's just crazy that you've just said that about feeling shame afterwards. Like, I never even mentioned that. And the fact that is literally what happens to me. Like, I feel so like ashamed of myself or really disappointed in myself afterwards that I'm like, I'm such a failure. Like, I'm so stupid. And I just end up going down a spiral.
Have you ever felt like that in your childhood?
Yeah. So my dad wasn't Um, he w- he was more of a verbal man, not like shouting in your face, but he would like say, "Oh, grow up," or like, "Oh, why are you being so stupid?" So I think that is probably part of it, which I'm not surprised now because I chose men that were like my father, unfortunately,
Yeah.
because I learned that in your books. I realized, and I was like, I can't believe it. Um, Hence why I love your book so much. It really taught me a lot.
People are going to be
Um,
confused. You better say workbook. Otherwise, people are going to be like, Craig, when did you write a book? She
oh,
means the
sorry,
she means the
sorry.
knowledge workbooks. I could
Yeah,
already
the
see the comments
workbook.
coming.
Sorry. Yeah. So I think maybe that's part of it. Um, I didn't really. Yeah, it's only my friend and that is has always been there to say the positive things. Um, Sadly.
Mm.
I mean, my mother's better now because I told her how I felt, and she ended up hugging me a lot more.
Mm.
I know that sounds really silly.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, yeah, it's really strange. Sorry,
No,
does
it isn't.
overwhelm me a little bit.
And I can't help but think of the phrase, I'm sure maybe you've heard it before, whatever's in the way is the way.
Hmm.
You know, meaning that sometimes in our life, we have these roadblocks and things that we don't want to deal with, but we have to in order to find the success. It's like we're trying so hard to get away from it that it's like the universe is like, nope, not getting away from it,
Hmm.
you know?
And one thing that's
Yeah.
special about adulthood here and working through some of these past experiences, once again, this is not therapy for legal purposes, right? And because we want to just get this kind of information out there, but one thing that can be helpful is to reorient yourself to the now, reminding yourself, I'm an adult now. I do have a lot more agency than I did back when I was a kid or when I was in situations where I was quite literally powerless or where people didn't want to hear what was going on with me. So being able to reorient yourself to, okay, I'm a capable person now. I'm able to speak my mind now. I have many opportunities to present and for them to go well. So it can be difficult when you've had poor experiences in the past to kind of think that something different can happen. But there's going to be, honestly, if you decided tomorrow you wanted to join like Toastmasters or be in a job that is very forward facing, you could be presenting every single day and have that kind of exposure, right? So I know there can be this pressure at your job, reminding yourself the next time you present won't be the last one, and that's not a bad thing. You're going to have opportunities.
Sure. Or you could consider going to an open mic and doing comedy and just
I'm
bombing.
just not funny.
Bombing on purpose.
Listen, yeah, go with the intention of bombing.
Mhm.
Literally, go with the intention of doing poorly, do it a bunch of times, and then it would takes the power away from it. You're like, okay, so what? I did bad. Nothing happened. People looked at me and they didn't laugh. Okay, well, I kind of knew that was going to happen. That was my point.
Yeah.
And then it takes the power away from it.
Yeah, and there are a couple other little strategies that can help you in the moment too. One that I like is to take your anxiety and try to see it as excitement. So anxiety in our body, it feels like a lot of energy, a lot of anxious energy. Try to reframe that as, okay, my heart is beating fast. I'm feeling like I'm choking up. How can I view this as excitement? I'm so excited to share what I'm about to say. And it's almost like gaslighting yourself a little bit into thinking another strategy that can be helpful is acting as if. So if you think in your mind, actually, I'm not I don't know, the CEO of such firm. What I am is an actor of the CEO of such firm giving this presentation. So having that reframe can kind of extinguish some of that imposter syndrome because you are embracing the imposter. You're saying, you know what, I am acting as if, almost fake it till you make it, a bit there. So there are certain strategies that can help you in the moment, along with working through some of those past experiences to kind of rewrite your story here.
No, I love that. I really like that acting
Mm.
side of it and try to change the way I think. And also, I think that I might need to change my therapist so it's more tailored to me.
Mm.
But
I would
perhaps,
look at somebody who might specialize with trauma, a
yeah,
trauma therapist.
Mm.
Because the thing about therapists is that there are so many different ideas out there about how to deal with things, or clinicians have different interests. Some
Mhm.
like to deal with trauma, some want to deal with teenagers, some of them want to do behavioral. So different approaches can work better with different types of issues and different personalities as well.
Mhm.
no, yeah, I'll be definitely looking at that. Yeah, that helps a lot. Yeah.
So I think the approach of kind of like, the different strategies, the desensitization issues, or maybe therapeutic activities like writing about the incident where, you know, your father's friend was trying to take advantage of you. Maybe write it down, write it all out, write what you remember. Try and visualize and maybe do it with a therapist there if
Mhm.
it's because it could bring up some real trauma and issues. But different activities like that can help you work through it. And, even imagine going back in time as an adult to protect the young version of you. Margaret
Mm.
used to say to do something like that.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I do actually, instead of, because I'm not very good at writing, on in like his diary, I actually end up doing lyrics or drawing a picture because it helps maybe
Sure.
figuring out what the actual issue is in my mind because it takes my mind off it.
Yeah,
I love that.
don't overwhelm yourself,
Yeah.
because trauma can come back up. So maybe, find a good trauma therapist first, but even you could draw like a comic book of what happened if that makes you feel better instead
Yeah.
of putting it to words, because sometimes going back and looking at it as an adult, it helps you process the difficult feelings and emotions.
Right. And one thing, just more tips on being able to ground when you are in the moment, going back to breath. I know it's so cheesy. You know, you hear it all the time. Oh, I went to a therapist and they told me how to breathe. Wow. No, but being able to focus on your breath, being able um to slow your body down in those moments, because I imagine that, when you're in the spotlight, you're having palpitations, you kind of look like deer in the headlights. And this is something that I struggled with too. I remember in my grad program having to do presentations for therapy school and having these kind of anxiety symptoms too. So if you can imagine a therapist being in therapy school having anxiety symptoms as presenting. So one of my professors, he was like, I see that you're nervous. Let's do one of these skills together right now in front of the class. And we did like a very simple grounding exercise. I think it was the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, where you notice 5 things that you can see around you, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. So it's a very simple, common grounding tool. And it did get my body back into a regulated enough state to where I was able to continue with that presentation. So in your situation at work, I don't think that your CEO or whoever's going to be there guiding you through those things, but it's something that you can mentally do for yourself, even as you're sitting down before a presentation, just to ground your body and calm yourself down a bit.
I'll be trying that. Yeah, I like little homework sessions to try it out.
Yeah, it can make a big difference, in working through that stuff. But again, I think about whatever's in the way is the way. And so when you work through these things, I think you're going to be much better off in your presentations and in your career.
Yeah, to get to the core of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so yeah, well, otherwise it will just go around in circles and it will just continue. Yeah.
Anxiety affects a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And, I've been talking about this for many, many years. One of the videos I first remember doing was the real reason relationships fail, and talking about how anxiety really damages our connections because we become so selfish and self-absorbed and controlling and manipulative with our partners. And we keep doing that. And so it just kills the attraction.
And what's ironic is that it causes us to be selfish in a way of thinking, oh my gosh, everybody's thinking negatively about me. Everyone's, judging me. And so we start to think me. But at the same time, we're being our least authentic self because now we're thinking about how we're being perceived rather than what do I want to put out there? What message do I want to send?
Yeah.
What do I authentically want to share with the world? So it can be that little reframe that can be helpful, along with exposure, along with working in therapy through some of those traumatic events.
Yeah. But don't try and overwhelm yourself. It could be a little too much. So you just do a little bit at a time and you slowly make progress.
And I will say thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story with us and being able to have that voice. I think this episode is kind of like an example within itself of you being able to speak out.
That's true.
Now I appreciate it. I was very nervous, but you're very chilled. I like it.
No, I think most people listening won't really know that you're nervous,
And the important thing is that you're able to get the message out there, even if it's with a shaky voice. Isn't there like a John Mayer song or something that's like, say what you need to say?
Sing for us. No, hopefully it helps other people too, who are in similar situations. So I'm sure you'll help a lot of people, including myself. You definitely will do.
Well, thank you so much for calling us today. We really appreciate the call. And, maybe as you keep working, you're giving us an update down the road.
Definitely. No, thank you so much.
You're welcome.